Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Larry at Packmasters Dog Training here. I'm going to try to answer a couple of questions here, but I'm kind of do it in a roundabout way. 175 questions. That's what I had, asking all kinds of stuffs, asking for answers on so many different dog problems and behaviors. But a big part of those 175 emails and questions had to do with aggression and with fear or some kind of anxiety. So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of that I've gone through with different dogs, and maybe you could take something out of that, all right? Because there is no exact answer for really anything in dog training, but especially in something like fear and aggression, okay? It's so broad. So let's touch on a couple of things first. Let's touch on aggression. Several years ago, I was working with a young German Shepherd, okay? Actually worked with this dog for a while, longer than most. And I started working with him at 4 months old, young, a puppy. And he was a son of a bitch from day one. You know, now most of the times I get called to work in with a client's dog that has behavioral problems. Let's face it, normally it was caused and created by the owners doing or not doing what they're supposed to. That's just a fact, okay? That's what it normally is. This dog had some pretty serious dog aggression issues at 4 months old. And I can honestly say it was not caused by the owners. The owners were doing everything they possibly could, putting in a lot of work, a lot of time, and what it came down to, I think it was just really bad breeding. There was a lot of issues with the dog. I mean, I remember at 4 months old being outside in the pouring rain and literally wrestling on the ground with this dog. He fought everything. I mean, it was a nightmare. It was really tough. As the dog got older, you know, we made a lot of progress. His obedience was good, but the aggression was just never completely gone. It really wasn't. Every now and then he'd have a blow up at a dog. He'd come to a group class, he'd go after a dog. And you know what? The problem I have when people simplify just correcting a dog, this dog didn't care about corrections. He didn't care about any kind of uncomfortable feelings. He didn't care about pain. He didn't care about nothing. It didn't affect him. There was no correction hard enough to stop this dog from being an asshole. That's all there was to it. And I was really at my wit's end. You know, he really got to me, and I didn't like the dog. I really did not like this dog. You know, there was nothing likable about him. And then one day we're getting ready for a group class. The dog was a lot older now. And his owner still came to group class, did everything I asked him to do, and I called the owner and I said, today we get rid of the aggression for good. And he kind of laughed. He's like, yeah, that would be great, you know. I'm like, no, I'm serious. Today we're going to get rid of the aggression. Get rid of it. It's going to be gone for good. I've had enough. That's it. It's when I first started using dominant dog collars too. As a matter of fact, this may be the first dog I've used a dominant dog collar on. And for those of you that know, a dominant dog collar is just basically like a nylon slip collar, but that is more fitted than, say, like a choke collar. And it's used by straight pressure, not by yanking or cranking or anything like that. So I started using dominant dog collars. We put a dominant dog collar on this dog, which, by the way, any dog I work with that has any form of aggression, I only use a dominant dog collar. Nothing else. I do not use anything else except a dominant dog collar. It's a fantastic tool, and it prevents the dog from ever slipping out of it, and you can control any dog with this collar also. And God forbid they ever lay a bite on someone or something, it's the easiest way to get a dog off. But anyway, we put a dominant dog collar on the dog, and we went you know, about our normal training session, our normal group class, and he started acting like an asshole. Started going after dogs, and I said, give me the dog. And I had the dog, and he went to go after a dog, and what I did was I pulled straight up on the dominant dog collar, not yanking, but putting pressure straight up, and basically what you're doing is you're cutting off his wind, and you're controlling the head, you know, and he kind of fought it a little, and then he eased up. When he relaxed, I relaxed, okay? He gave it about a good few seconds, and then he blew up bigger to go after the dog. I pulled up bigger, and I basically lifted his front leg right off the ground, and I cut off his wind for a while. And when he relaxed, I held it a little bit longer, and then I gave in. And at that moment, that dog just went, walked like a normal dog, made like the dog wasn't around, and when we stopped, he laid down and was relaxed for the first time. For the first time, this dog relaxed. I had never seen him relax before, you know. We had tried everything we could think of up until this point. You know, we corrected the behavior with several different ways. The dog was e-collar trained. His obedience was great. You know, there was nothing we hadn't tried. What it came down to, guys, is sometimes you just got to say enough is enough. That's it. Basically what it came down to, there was nothing I can take away from him that affected him. There was nothing I can add, no unpleasant feelings that I can add that affected him. But the one thing I found that we can take away that did have effect was him breathing. Now, as harsh as that seems, this is a dog that would have been lost if we didn't come up with something. So basically, when he began acting like an asshole, what I had to say was, listen, motherfucker, you don't breathe unless you cut this bullshit out. I control everything. I control your every move. I control your breathing. And that's what it took with this dog, okay? I had to be a bigger motherfucker than he was. And it took a while. I wish I would have tried it sooner. But guess what, guys? After that, he just became a normal dog. And it took us so long to figure out what got through to this dog. And that's what it was. It was something that simple, but that effective. And like we talk about with all cases, there is no one right way, guys. There just isn't. So anyone that's struggling with any behavior, you have to try multiple things. You have to figure out what works, because most likely there is something that works. You just have to find it, you know? I very rarely have found it to be as easy as just correct the behavior. You know, it's not always that easy, guys. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. But like I've talked about before, behaviors, you know, behaviors are easily stopped with corrections. When I say behaviors, I mean things that the dog has full control of, you know, jumping on people, digging, chewing, you know, those kind of things. But a mindset is completely different. And this dog's mindset was to be an asshole anytime he saw a dog, you know? And so how do you change the mindset? That's what it took with that dog, all right? So the point is, you got to figure out what works. With that dog, it took me a long time. It really did. From that day on, I've never used a different type of collar on any kind of aggression case, whether it's dog aggression or human aggression. Every dog gets a dominant dog collar. I won't work it without. Very valuable tool, okay? Let's touch on the next subject, fear, weakness, anxiety. This was my own dog. So this was a very, very good lesson for me. Several years ago, I had a female Dutch Shepherd. I got her when she was 7 months old. I didn't raise her from a puppy. When I was at home working her, she looked fantastic. Looked like a superstar, you know, looked like a nice, strong dog. She had great drive. I mean, very social. She was just the ideal dog. Loved her to death. But anytime I took her any place, I mean any place, she looked like shit. She looked like a dog that had been beaten, you know, very submissive looking, ears back, very insecure. She looked sick, you know, and it didn't matter where we went. She always did. One of the first videos I ever posted on YouTube was me with this dog somewhere down in downtown Nashville, working her off leash in a busy area in traffic. And people were like, wow, that's incredible. Look at that dog. Well, in reality, if anyone knows anything about dogs, she looked like shit. That wasn't anything I did with her. I was trying to get her out of that. You know, she looked absolutely awful. She didn't look like a strong dog. And as you guys know, any dog I work with, I want to be good upstairs. I want it to be confident and happy. I couldn't fix it. I tried everything. I couldn't get through to this dog when we left the home. So I think it might have been the first time I ever went to a Bart Ballone seminar. I believe it was. It was in Virginia. I loaded the dog up. I drove 14 hours one way to see if he can do something to help me with this dog, okay? So we make the long drive, and like I said, 14 hours, because if you want something done, you got to make some sacrifices, folks. So we get there. A lot of people, big seminar, dogs from all over the place, some really insane dogs, all right? Spent the first few hours, you know, speaking, talking. Bart's doing a, you know, kind of a classroom type thing outside. Then we start working dogs, and some of the dogs we saw, man, they were impressive. Really, really high level dogs. Some crazy stuff. And the way he did it was someone would go out, okay, work your dog. The people would work their dog for a few minutes. He said, okay, what's the problem? They tell him the problem, and then Bart handles the dog. And pretty quick, the problems were fixed. I mean, absolutely amazing. I was just blown away. I watched one difficult dog after another be fixed. And then it's my turn. He says, okay, what's the problem? And I tell him what the problem is, just like I just explained to you. He said, okay, take a ball. He said, throw the ball for the dog. I throw the ball for the dog. He says, okay, work the dog in this. I work the dog a little bit. He says to me, I can't help you. And I'm like, shh, okay, great. And everyone, you could tell, kind of felt bad for me. He said, there's nothing I can do. He said, this dog will never be 100%. He said, you've done everything you can. You got her to 65% maybe. He said, there's nothing else you could do. He said, I might be able to make her a little better, but not much. And everybody felt really bad for me. But in reality, I did it. I was fine with that. I was actually relieved, because at least it told me that I had done everything I could. It wasn't anything I was doing. And if someone like Bart said he can get it a little better than how much, I'm doing something right, So I was okay with that. So then what happens is, usually the people that work their dog, they put their dog away and they go about back to socializing and talking, because most of these people that go to these seminars, it's like a social thing. When it's their turn with their dog, they work their dog, they do what they have to, but then they go back to bullshitting. I don't do that. When I'm amongst greatness in any category, not just dog training, I'm going to soak up everything I possibly can. So what happened next? They went to get the next dog out. Instead of putting my dog away, I kept her with me. She was fine off leash. She was, well behaved. I didn't have to worry about that. So as she's standing next to me, looking like shit, ears back, looked like she was going to throw up, really bad, I'm listening to Bart talk. And he said something about spontaneous reward. I don't even remember what he was talking about, but something just popped out at me, and he mentioned something about rewarding a dog spontaneously. And at that moment, I looked down at my dog, and she looked up at me for a brief second with her ears up and looked really good. And at that moment, I said yes, and I rewarded with food. And she kind of took the food and looked at me like, what the hell was that for? But the ears stayed up and she looked good. I said yes, and I rewarded. Now I kept saying yes and rewarding multiple times, and she was looking fantastic. Okay, she was looking really strong, which she never did away from home. At that moment, I scooped her up, I threw her in my car, and I drove down to the closest open field I could find. It was a school down the road. I got her out of the car, and I started working her, everything she knew. And she looked like a superstar, looked fantastic. All of a sudden, I had a different dog, all right? Got back to the seminar, finished it up for the weekend. When I got home, I had a little meeting with my wife and 2 kids, and there was a new rule in the house. That dog did not exist in our lives unless she looked good, unless she looked confident. She had to look strong. When she was looking weak and down, she didn't exist to us. We didn't give her water, we didn't give her food, we didn't give her affection. The only way she got attention is when she looked confident and strong. That's what we needed, all right? That was the new rule. My family complied because our dogs are important to all of us, okay? Fast forward, several months later, Bart's doing another seminar. I drive another 14 hours. I take the same dog. This time not to get his help. I just go to attend and learn from greatness, okay? So during breaks, I'm out working the dog. I'm doing all kinds of stuff with her. And Bart comes over and he looks at me, he says, that's not the same dog from the last time. I said, yeah, it is. I think his exact words with his accent were, fuck bloody no, it's not. Okay, I can't do Bart's accent, but for those of you who know what I'm talking about, I said, yeah, it is. He said, what the fuck did you do? Just like that. I said, I didn't do anything. Yes, I said, you did it. It was something you said. He said, what did I say? And I repeated what he said at the last seminar that clicked with me. And he said, I didn't say that. I said, yes, you did. You did. I said, that made all the difference in the world. He said, man, that's fantastic. My point about that, guys, is I see too many people. I knew so many trainers from that seminar that go and it's a social thing. They go and they work their dog, but when they're done, it's bullshitting. You have to pay attention when someone like that is speaking. Like I said, in any area of life, not just dog training, because you never know what you're going to take out of it, okay? That short little phrase, that little sentence that he said changed that dog's life forever, okay? Because it's something that clicked with me. So it's very, very important. Up until that point, I thought I had tried everything, and it didn't. It didn't, okay? Fast forward a few years later back. I knew I was doing okay as a dog trainer. It was another BART seminar, and it was closer to home this time. And I took Luca with me. Luca was a baby. He was like 8 months old, I think, something like that. I didn't take him for help. I didn't take him to train. I took him just to expose him to something like that, to get him around a high-level area like a lot of dogs, to socialize him, get him out and enjoy the weekend, because I'm still going to go learn. I'm a lifelong student, and I'll travel to watch someone that I admire and trust as far as I have to, and I'll always do that. I'll never stop. And so again, Bart's working a bunch of dogs. And then there was a break. He was waiting for the next dog, and they were taking a long time. And he said to me, Larry, do you have your dog with you? I said, yeah. He said, go get him. I said, no, I'm not here to work him. He said, go get the dog. I said, nah, he's not ready. He said, I'm not here. He said, go get the bloody dog. I said, all right, fine. You go work your dog. Now, what Bart normally does when you work the dog, he tells you, okay, don't do that, do this, and he'll pick apart what you're doing and help you. Well, this time I started working Luca, and like I said, he's a baby, and I was doing all different positions, some bite work, some tug stuff, sending him to different positions. But this time, instead of telling me, no, do this, not that, he was narrating, and he was telling the crowd, Larry's doing this because of this. He's doing this because of this. He didn't do this because... So he narrated the whole thing. I worked the dog for a while, and when I was done, he clapped and said, bravo, well done. At that moment, I knew I was doing something right. But the reason I got to that point, guys, was because when someone like Bart was speaking, and many others that I have traveled to work with, some of the old timers that really know their stuff, I keep my mouth shut and my ears open. I don't go to socialize. I soak this shit up, okay? I'm a fanatic. I'm completely obsessed with obtaining as much knowledge as possible. So sometimes I say things that people don't like, I could be a little critical. I never go after anyone in particular, I don't single people out. But this whole theory, of just correct the dog fucking hard and everything will go away, it doesn't work that way, guys. This stuff, the dog's mind is a lot more, it's a lot more complex like that, even though at times it's very simple. You understand what I'm saying? So here we touched on an aggression case that I struggled with, and my own case with anxiety and fear in my own dog that I struggled with. And those are two ways that I got through both of them. I don't know if this will help anyone, but there is no one exact way. You have to keep trying. You have to dig, and you have to be fucking obsessed with this if you're going to ever be great. If you want to be great, you got to follow great people. If you want to be great, you got to continue to learn and come up with your own stuff. Take what the greats have done and make it your own. Don't try to emulate anyone. Don't try to be anybody. Like I said, there's a lot more than one way to do things. A lot more than one right way. There's many ways to get to the same place. All right? It's really important, guys. Hope this helps. Peace.